Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Sarah Schultz, Reno real estate expert. What's up? Name was formerly Sarah Sperber. I just changed it after 5 years of marriage. COVID happened and everything was shut down and I put it off. And so here we are just to give you a little explanation. And on today's video, I am mentally preparing myself for the keyboard warriors who are sure to emerge. But today's video, should we kick out the Californians? I know there are going to be a lot of murmurs and disgruntled folks in the back who have a lot of opinions. So I'm fortifying my own self here to kind of respond to all of you, but I need to preface this video by saying clickbait is a thing, okay, people? I'm not out here hating people. I'm not a vicious person. I'm just a measly little realtor in the Northern Nevada market here to help you with all your real estate needs. But yes, I'm sure that this title and my thumbnail got some attention. So let me just preface this by saying there are pros and cons for any city that is undergoing development, right? And there are always going to be people who are bitter and adverse to change because it affects quality of life for people who were here all along. And then there are going to be folks who move here and find it's a whole new world, right? I'll spare you my singing from here on out. But my point is, I'm not here to be a bully or say anything negative, but I am gonna kind of in this video go through some of the factors that have changed, things to look out for if you are a Californian, things you might want to consider if you are a Renoite experiencing this rapid change in our local economy and kind of seen some things that, we're all very aware of now. So if you guys have stuff to add, go ahead, throw it in the comments. Please don't be mean to me. I'm just the kind of purveyor of this information, but I'm not here to hate or be hated upon. So without further ado, let's dive in. So obviously it goes without saying, Reno has kind of become a hot little relocation destination for those of you coming from California. I've heard some funny things like Reno is the East Bay, the Far East Bay. A good one I've heard is Reno is California's smoking section. A little casino humor for you. But yes, it's true. We are experiencing a high influx as California is experiencing a mass exodus for a number of reasons. Let's talk about some of the positives of what this means for our city though, because it's not without positives. And frankly, a lot of the changes that have happened in Reno, I think are wonderful and have made it even more desirable to live here. So let's get into some of that. With an influx of new residents from anywhere of any kind or variety or original location, that's going to bring into Reno a new influx of businesses, more diversity, more cultural experiences, perhaps more events, and of course, more economic growth for our region, which has ups and downs, right, for the people who are already here. But right now we're talking about the positives. I think as maybe an indirect result of this influx of new people and new folks here, we have seen the revitalization of several neighborhoods and areas within our city that were maybe kind of stalled. Maybe now we've got more funding. Maybe now there's a higher demand, just more population density to kind of, nurture and utilize some of these developing features, neighborhoods, what have you. I think overall, this influx of new people has kind of expedited the process of reimagining Reno, for better or for worse, but I think that it has expedited it. Now, of course, with economic growth in any city, whether it's people coming from California or people coming from Timbuktu, it doesn't matter. What it does is causes a bit of discomfort or concern for the people who are already here and maybe already struggling to get by. So I feel for you if you are a local Renoite, or, maybe you were like a Tahoe ski bum, not mentioning any names, and then you're competing against tech gurus who are moving in and buying up all the housing or buying houses as investment rentals. And then, kind of there's this whole tension between people who need a place to live, like a primary residence, and then investors who are buying to use homes as short-term rentals. That's a whole other video for a whole other time, but I am acknowledging that there is that tension here. So that's one thing that is a point of contention or concern for the locals here. So you do kind of have to have that understanding, whether you care or not, I don't know, but if you're coming here, that exists here. And there are some places, some Facebook groups, some other places where you really get that sense of maybe anger or animosity from some folks. Overall, let's just call it what it is. Overall, what that is doing is driving up home prices and tightening an already very tight inventory, right? So that is creating a hardship potentially for locals and people who have income that's not from, these big tech companies out of state. Another common concern is general just traffic, infrastructure, road work, like a city that's constantly being reimagined, redeveloped, growing, like everything. It seems like all over the place. The road is always being rebuilt, widened, fixed. I don't know, but like sitting in traffic when you're in a city like this that is rapidly growing is going to be part of your life in some way, and it's becoming a lot more of a thing than it ever was when I moved here 15 years ago. Also, the culture here seems to be changing, right? When I moved here, it was a lot of very dingy casinos, old neon signage, which in my mind is like very nostalgic, especially coming from New England. Being in Reno always just felt like there was a distinct vibe here, right? It was a very creative energy, and that's still here. It's just kind of changed, but a lot of these historic structures, whether they were great or not, I mean, a lot of them were gritty motels, but a lot of these places are being torn down and replaced with, expensive luxury high-rise condos, apartments, what have you. And so, I mean, just the feeling that you get when you walk around Reno has definitely changed. And I'm not saying for better or for worse, it's just different than it was. I think that overall there is a divide, right, between longtime locals and newcomers. And I think that the way that we bridge that divide is through trying to preserve Reno's identity, even as it's kind of in flux and is in a great period of growth and development and change. I think that there are kind of like Reno cultural staples that we need to preserve, right? I mean, just the iconic signage alone and, cultural experiences like the rodeo and Art Town and all the things that make Reno, we need to hold on to those. And I think that, part of Reno's identity, at least for me as a young person, I mean, I moved here in my early to mid 20s. I always thought of Midtown as this like really cool, really unique, a little gritty, but like super funky part of our city. And in recent years, it has really declined. A lot of businesses have pulled out of Midtown. I'm going to be honest with you, and if somebody hears this who doesn't like it, I'm sorry, but they put this divider down the middle of South Virginia Street through Midtown that makes it impossible to make a left turn. So if you had a business on one side or the other of the street, you probably lost a lot of traffic. Parking became a big challenge at that point. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is a lot of the cool, funky businesses that made Midtown, and in my opinion, Midtown was always kind of like the soul of our city. It's caused a lot of those businesses to go under, to leave, to move to different parts of the city, and to me, that is a huge tragedy, and that is something that as a longtime local, we need to be kind of mourning. Okay, obviously, I'm in real estate, and so the biggest thing that I talk about, think about, my entire personality is all about the real estate market. I joke, but I'm serious. Anyway, obviously, we can't really talk about the impact of Californians moving here without talking about the impact of our real estate market. It has made it a lot more competitive. Obviously, I've already mentioned that it has driven up prices to, the longtime locals. That $600K, that like median sales price, just an average home, feels like a big stretch for most people who have to work so hard to save up the down payment, to make sure that they can afford the mortgage monthly payment, to, all the things that go into buying a home. Whereas like someone from maybe San Jose or maybe Palo Alto, like people who are coming from there to here, our $600,000 home, like the same home there would cost at least double that, right? So they're looking at us thinking like, wow, what an awesome opportunity. There are people, especially during COVID, there were a lot of cash buyers who were just buying sight unseen. I think that with everything and how things have kind of shifted, I'm seeing a lot less of that on the market. We're not as, fast and competitive with our pace, just because mortgage interest rates have kind of weeded out a lot of buyers who are financing. So there's not this pressure of like, I don't even need to see it. Send me a video. I'm buying it, right? Like, we're not doing that as much anymore. But there are still a lot of cash buyers who are competing with, or I should say, a lot of financing buyers who are competing with cash buyers, which is obviously making it very hard for those two buyers who are both qualified, but it's making it harder because the financing buyer has a lot more contingencies and hoops to jump through than a cash buyer might. So these are all things that are impacting our local market, things that I see and work in every single day, for better or for worse. I feel like I'm trying to be really balanced here. There are a lot of pros. There are some hardships for longtime locals, but overall, I mean, it's a fact of life in many cities of this size that are kind of emerging, that are kind of bubbling, and whether you like it or not, it's happening. So I guess at this point, like, if you're one of the disgruntled people, you either need to find a way to make the most of it or consider a place where your money may stretch a bit farther in a different market. And if you are making that consideration, feel free to reach out. I have a network of amazing real estate professionals nationwide, and I would love to set you up with somebody who's going to take great care of you. All right, you guys, dare I even ask, but what have I missed? What opinions do you have? I'm going to just really mentally prepare for all of your commentary. Some of you guys are mean out there. But anyway, if you are thinking about moving here from California or otherwise, or if you're here and you're like, I have had enough, I need to get out of this market, and you want to move elsewhere, you have a house to sell, you want to buy something here, you want to sell something here, I am your girl. I would love to help you out. You can book a free strategy call with me. There's a link in the show notes to do that. It's no obligation, no pressure, just a chance to connect, see if we might be a good fit, or at the very least, get all your real estate questions answered and help you devise a winning strategy. And if you haven't already, it would mean a lot to me if you could hit that like and that subscribe button. I do put out new videos every single week about the Reno Sparks market, the Northern Nevada lifestyle, and all things to do with buying and selling real estate. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.